Hello guys, welcome to the fourth video of Automation with Playwright series. If you haven't watched the previous videos of this series, then I will recommend you to watch those videos first. You can find the playlist link from the video description. If you find these videos helpful, then don't forget to show your support, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Agenda of this video is to discuss about what is feature file and then what all are the available Gherkin keywords, and then we'll see how we can categorize the tests in feature file using tags. And then finally, we'll write the tests in feature file. What is feature file? Feature file is a file in BDD framework in which we can write the tests in human readable plain text format. Usually, we use Gherkin syntax to write the tests in BDD format in a feature file. As scenarios are written in plain text format, hence a feature file becomes a valuable resource between developers and non-technical stakeholders. This way, there is no need for a non-technical person to go through the code to understand what functionality is going to be validated. They can simply go to the feature file and they can go to the scenario they are interested in to understand what functionality is going to be validated in that scenario. So this way, feature file bridges the gap between technical and non-technical person. Okay, so we have Cucumber and SpecFlow for BDD framework. Both are open source, but Cucumber provides multi-language support. So we can write the tests in BDD format using Cucumber along with Java, Python, JavaScript programming languages. So it provides multi-language support. But SpecFlow is just for .NET environment. So SpecFlow is nothing, just a port of Cucumber for .NET environment. So the programming languages like C#, F#, which uses .NET environment, there we can use SpecFlow to write the tests in BDD format. What are Gherkin keywords? So when we write scenarios in our feature file, we use these keywords to write them. Keywords are given, when, and, then, but, and many more. In later part of this video, I'll be explaining how we can use these keywords to write the scenarios in feature file. To explain the concept in better way, I have an example of this feature file. And here you can see how we have written the scenarios in plain text format using Gherkin syntax. First keyword is feature. So feature keyword we use for explaining what we are going to validate in that feature file. And then we have background keyword. So in a feature file, we may have many scenarios, okay? And there might be some steps which are going to be same across all the scenarios. So instead of writing all those steps again and again in each scenario, we can use the background keyword and write those steps once. So that's what we have written the steps just below background, because those steps are going to be same in each scenario of this feature file. Next keywords are scenario and scenario outline. So in a feature file, scenario represents a test case. So whatever we write after scenario colon, that explains what we are going to do in a particular test case. So if you see the last scenario, we have written add items to the cart. Means we are going to add the item in the cart. So after that, you can see the steps of those test cases using the Gherkin keywords when, and, but, then, and. So with the help of these keywords, we have written the steps of that test case, which will be performed one by one while executing that test case. Scenario outline also represents the scenario only, but here we can run our tests with different sets of test data. So whenever we want to run our test case with different sets of inputs or test data, then in that case, we can use scenario outline. So if you see in this scenario outline, we are trying to log into the application with different sets of username and password. We are using examples keyword to pass the values of the parameter which we have defined in our steps. Here we have two parameters, username and password, and we are passing different sets of inputs for those parameters. So here we have total of two test cases. First test case is for user 1 and pass 123, and then second test case is for user 2 and secret. So this way we are able to test the login of application with different sets of input. So in such scenarios, we use scenario outline. So this way we can test the same test case again and again with different sets of input. Now we are left with these last 2 points, tagging and then writing the tests in feature file. For this, we'll switch to our Visual Studio, and there we'll create a feature file and then we'll write our tests. Okay, so now let's create the feature file in our framework. For that, you click on add and then new item, and here just give the name of feature file. Let's say login test. Okay, and then give dot .feature because every feature file will have the extension of .feature. Click on add. Okay, so now you got this feature file created here, login test.feature. Delete all these things. Here we'll be writing the scenarios of this feature file. So first we'll write the feature keyword because this will describe what exactly we are going to validate in this feature file. And if you see, the color of this feature got changed. So actually to work with these Gherkin keywords, we have to install one extension for spec flow so that whatever keywords we write that can be recognized with the editor. So for that you have to just go to extension, manage extension, and here you can search for spec flow. Okay. So once you search for this, you will get just a second. So you'll get this option, spec flow for Visual Studio. So this one you have to install. I have already installed this. You can see this green tick here. If you haven't installed, you have to install this to work with this Gherkin syntax. Okay, I'm closing this. So now here we'll write what exactly we are going to do in this scenario, in this feature file. So we can write here test login to the application. Okay. Now this is the description of all the scenarios which we are going to test in this feature file. Now you can see I have written all the steps of this scenario, and also I changed it to scenario outline because we are going to use parameterization for our test case, because we will be log into the application with valid and invalid credentials. So if you see, the first step is launch the app URL, and then user is on login page. So this set of steps is like a precondition. So that's why we are using given keyword here. And then we are, performing some action. So that's why we wrote when user enters emails and password. So this is like we are doing some action. In the same way, after entering the username and password, then we are, clicking on login button. So that's why we wrote when again. And then finally, result we are checking. So I mean, the user is logged in successfully or not. So that comes in result, part. So that's why we wrote here then keyword. Okay, so now if you see, we are repeating the given keyword 2 times. So for that, in this case, we can use and here. Okay. And again, if you see, for when we are repeating when 2 times, so here we can use and instead of repeating the same keyword again. Okay. We have used examples keyword to pass the values for the parameters of the scenario. If you see, we have 3 parameters in the scenario: email, password, and if successful. So to pass the values for these parameters, we have used examples keyword, and that's the reason I have changed it to scenario outline so that we can use the examples keyword. Okay. So now you can see we have 2 sets of inputs for this scenario. This is the first set of input, and then this is the second set of inputs. So in total, we have 2 test cases. Okay. And now one tip, you can use Ctrl+KD to format this feature file. Also, if you notice, these values are not real values. I didn't put the real values because this password or email or sensitive data. So I didn't put those values directly in the feature file. But suppose you have test case and the values are not sensitive, then you can directly pass those values here. But in this case, we'll be using the UI configs where we have already declared those properties, and with the help of this .secret file, we'll pass the values for those variables or properties, and then we'll fetch them in our test case. So, for these steps, we'll be writing the step definition where we'll be writing the code which drives these steps, because when this step will run at backend, it will check what code is written for this step. Likewise, for all the steps, we'll be having the step definitions, and there we'll write the code, and those code will be executed once we run a particular scenario. Okay. And that secret file, which I showed just now, this one. So this one comes from here, which I already explained in the previous videos. So if you click on this manage user secrets, here you'll get this file. So here we can pass the values for the configs which we have declared here, and then those values will be read while executing the test cases. One more thing, actually we can categorize our test cases based on some tags. So let's say this scenario is a UI test case. So for that we can use a tag of our choice, let's say UI. Okay. And suppose this is a smoke test case, so we can pass the tag as smoke as well. And one more thing, if we have a tag which is being same across all the scenario, so instead of putting that tag in each scenario, we can pass that tag at feature level as well. So let's say all the scenarios in this feature file are of UI type. So instead of writing that UI tag at scenario level, we can put that at feature level. By using these tags, we can organize our test cases, and with the help of these tags, we can run our test cases based on tags. So let's say we want to run only UI test cases, so that we can do. Let's say we want to run only smoke test cases, that we can do. So this way, when we get our report, there we can see how many test cases are passed or failed for a given tag. And also when we configure our GitHub actions in the workflow file, we can mention those tags, and then we can trigger the test cases for a given tag. So there also we can get the benefit of these tags. So this way we can execute our test cases quickly. Instead of running all the test cases, we can run the test cases which we want. So this way, these tags are very helpful. Okay, so now we have written this feature file. In next video, we will write the page objects in which we can write the locators and then the method which we can call in our step definitions to run these test cases. So stay tuned. In next video, we will cover the page objects.